Welcome into Beyond the Press Box with Yash Padee, Zach Kyleman, Cody Emerson, and Will Hatzel. Get ready to hear great discussion and debates on the biggest storylines in sports. We covered topics ranging from the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, college football, and college basketball. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the roundtable discussion between four friends who are passionate sports fans. Fellas, the NBA playoffs are really heating up right now. The Phoenix Suns, they beat the Los Angeles Clippers in the first game of the Western Conference Finals. I mean, you've got the Hawks and Sixers in a tough Game 7 in the Eastern semis going on right now as of this recording. This weekend on Saturday, you had the Bucks and the Nets go to overtime in that Game 7. Phenomenal Game 7 there as well. And so, even today I mentioned the Suns who beat the Clippers. Devin Booker had his first triple-double of his NBA career. So just wanted to get your overall thoughts so far as these playoff series are now heating up, and you're getting into some big time moments.
Well, I mean, if you're an NBA fan, there's no shortage of storylines. And I'm not just talking playoffs. I'm talking if you're an NBA fan, this is going to be the show for you because I mean we're basically going to go strictly NBA today because there's just been so much news come within the last week. The last Monday, there was I can't remember between coaching, which let go, couple coaches being let go or choosing not to come back. We'll get into that. CP3 testing positive for COVID, which obviously affected his status for the start of the Western Conference Finals, which didn't matter really because Devin Booker, like you said, Yash, played the game of his life. Well, I'm not going to say the game of his life because he has scored like 70 points in a game before.
Yeah.
But I mean, on the biggest stage when he needed to step up most, and I tweeted this out earlier today. I've said multiple times on this show that Damian Lillard is kind of my favorite non-pacer. Devin Booker's right there with right up there. I'd probably, Chris Paul is. How can you not like Chris Paul? If you're an NBA fan, I would hope you would like Chris Paul. But Devin Booker and Dame are right up there in terms of like if I were to get a jersey that's not Indiana Pacers, it'd probably be one of those two guys. He literally, I'm not going to say put the team on his back, but he basically kind of did. I mean, he got tons of help though. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, who has been, no one is talking about the play of DeAndre Ayton, by the way. And because Devin Booker and Chris Paul are kind of taking a majority of the credit. It's not because of they want the credit, but I mean, they're doing a bulk of the scoring and facilitating for Phoenix. But DeAndre Ayton's just quietly, shooting very efficiently. I think he was like only missed 3 or 4 shots today, had 20 I know he had 20 points and actually I can, as I continue to talk, I can pull it up here.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton had 20 points and 9 boards.
Yeah, so. He is just and it's quietly he's doing that, and it's just weird because it's not often you really we talk about Chris Paul, we talk about DeAndre Ayton. But DeAndre Ayton, I mean, was 10 of 14, shot 71%. And like you said, Josh had 20 points and 9 boards.
Mm-hmm.
He's right up there, and he's providing that spark that Phoenix needs while Chris Paul is out, he's like day-to-day now in the COVID protocols, which sucks. I swear the NBA gods hate Chris Paul, and they never want to see this man in a conference finals. Because it seems like every time he gets to a conference final, something, whether he gets hurt, this time he gets COVID.
Yeah.
It's just the NBA gods are not kind to Chris Paul.
Yeah. What's crazy is also, all 5 Suns starters had double digit scored in
Exactly.
double digits. So
And that's the thing that, yeah, Paul George can go off
yeah.
for 34 or however many points he had.
Yeah.
But I mean, where's the role players for? Look, if Kawhi is not going to be there, which that's another news that came out. Apparently, Kawhi is dealing with an ACL injury. It's not torn, obviously, but it's some form of an ACL injury. We don't quite know exactly what it is. He did not make the trip to Phoenix for games 1 and game 2. So, how long is he going to be out? And as much as that Jazz Clippers series in Game 7, how people were Terrence Mann. Oh my God, I think he had like 34, 36 points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he comes back down to reality and gives you. I think he only had like 6 points today in their Game 1 loss. So you're not going to be able to rely on that if you're the Clippers. Paul George is going to need to play superhuman, I think, because he played about as well as you can play, and they still lost. So when Chris Paul gets back, I see this being a 6-game series at best.
Yeah.
I think Phoenix takes this. I just don't, without Kawhi Leonard, I just don't see. Because Reggie Jackson was nice. Yeah, I think he had 20 again today.
Yeah.
But it's just the injury of Kawhi, I think more of on the defensive end. Because Kawhi would probably be that guy on Devin Booker.
Yeah.
And lock him down for most of the game. So, or at least attempt to. So it's going to be tough. I mean, but overall, these playoffs are, and then even we're talking about the West, over in the East, you got a thrilling Game 7 with Brooklyn and Milwaukee. And I'll paraphrase KD's final quote. We were talking about it before the show, which, by the way, real quick, Kevin Durant, anyone who says Kevin Durant is not the best player on the face of the planet Earth right now, you're on something. But sorry, LeBron James, your time has passed. It's Kevin Durant's time to shine. Yeah. And he did. So Kevin Durant, forced overtime. He thought he had a 3, but he was quoted as saying, "My big ass foot was on the line still." Which, if you look at the replay, it was. And he's got
real
big
talk.
feet. He's got big feet for a 7-footer.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that series was phenomenal. It lived up to the hype. This one, Atlanta and Philly, is living up to the hype right now. We'll keep you updated on that one. Philly's up by 1 with 3 minutes left in the third quarter. So it's going to probably go down to the wire. These playoffs, and like I have said multiple times, they've been so fun to keep up with. Now that I'm sorry, but when LeBron and Steph and the typical superstars are out, I'm curious to see the ratings of this year's playoffs.
Yeah,
I really am, because on one hand, I can see how they'd be down, because you don't have LeBron James, you don't have the Steph Curry, the Luka, the big time superstars. But on the other hand, you still got guys like Devin Booker, Joel Embiid, Giannis, KD, and the Nets' big 3. So I've loved these playoffs more than this is probably the most fun that I've had watching these playoffs in quite a while, actually.
Yeah.
It just because, I think I also said this last week, I have no idea who the hell is going to win.
No.
It could be Phoenix. It could be Milwaukee. It could be, Atlanta or Philly, whoever come out.
Yeah.
Clippers, who knows if they can come back and win. It's just going to be so exciting to follow.
I will say this. Last week I said Nate McMillan's time or the Hawks' time has come to an end. But hey, Nate McMillan made me eat my words.
I can't be mad at Nate McMillan.
He
It's
made,
like, where the hell was this
yeah,
in Indy?
Indiana.
But I mean, at the same time, and this the way from what I can tell, most of the Pacers fans feel,
Yeah,
they're happy for Nate McMillan.
yeah,
I mean, he got an unfair little treatment, with all the injury bugs that Indy had, and now he finally gets to coach a young team in Atlanta, which not many people projected them to get this far, and they have, and they're right there competing with Philly
yeah,
in a game seven and potentially go to the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm rooting for Atlanta. I
yeah.
hope you know what, Atlanta and Phoenix in the finals. Holy crap! That would no one would have ever dreamed that finals matchup would be possible. So that's what I'm rooting for. Will we get it? Who knows? But these playoffs, nonetheless, have been exciting as hell to watch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Cody. There's been like no shortage of great games, great series, and storylines, and just about every single game and every single series here with all these teams. I'm going to start with the game seven of the East semifinals with Milwaukee and Brooklyn. Look, as much as I roll my eyes with the big three, I give them credit for going down, with a fight. Kevin Durant is proves that look, he gets a lot of crap for going to Golden State and going and forming another super team here. And I've been critical of him too. But look, we have to put that aside for a little bit and just go back to watching him play basketball and enjoy the way he plays. Because I'm with you, Cody. He's move over LeBron. This guy is the best, at least offensive player in the game, arguably the best player or one of the best players in the league right now because he's just like a Swiss Army knife. He's dependable. He's usable in every situation, reliable, consistent, and he's just a multi-talented athlete. And it's just amazing to see him go back. We're moving past injuries, we're moving past all this debate about him joining different teams and whatnot. And we're going back to what Kevin Durant was at first respected for in his career back in his days with OKC. And that's literally just being a fun player to watch, almost like a Kobe Bryant-esque player with the shot selection, the shot making, the efficiency. Look, he left it all out on the floor. James Harden, 22 points in the game seven, struggled from three, went 2 for 12, 5 for 17 overall.
He is bad on it. That hamstring was never 100. And they
Yeah.
actually said, I think, he had like a grade 2 sprain or something like that. So,
And he played 53 minutes in that game because they went to OT
yeah,
too.
the Nets
So
bench, Steve, and that's something that if we had more time could really talk about. Like Steve Nash, where the hell? And I understand it's a game seven, but you do have a bench.
if you look at the stat sheets of not just this series, but some of the other series too, guys, like you'd be surprised how many games there's been where there hasn't been much with the bench players getting out there. And that's kind of surprising because, yeah, like sometimes the best things to have on your team is that role player that steps up or having a solid bench mob to give you some solid minutes when you're giving one of your stars a break or one of your starting five guys a break. And yeah, I think they got a little bit too top heavy this year. And of course, realistically, you're thinking, oh, we're going to play with Kyrie and Harden and Durant. And then it almost doesn't matter if you have Blake Griffin and Joe Harris and whatnot. But it did turn out to kind of be who's got the most star power, the most consistency, because the Bucks only got 9 points from their bench too in this game. But look, Middleton showed up. Brook Lopez, a guy that we've been clowning a lot more than anything else with him in his career lately. Some solid clutch defense down the stretch. PJ Tucker, we know he's been feisty, but he's also a good supporting cast player. Drew Holiday, a little bit more on the quiet side in this game, but he's been a good sidekick, alongside, Giannis and Middleton as well. So, and I give major props to Milwaukee. I know it might have been a little bit of an easier route they got to take because of the injuries to Harden and then Kyrie. But look, it's still tough to play this team. And even with Kyrie being out there at times and Harden at times, and of course, again, Kevin Durant, the Swiss Army knife out there, that's a tough team to beat. And we know that, there's thoughts that are going on in the minds of all these Milwaukee players just because of all the years of trying to get, to the promised land. And they've fell short every single year so far, even despite them being one of the best teams in the East. So they needed this, and I think they have great confidence going forward. And I think they're going to be ready to go with whoever they play. And they could even be I'm even prepared to say they're probably the favorites in the conference finals, whether it's Philly or Atlanta, because this team just took on the offensive juggernaut and finished them pretty strong, even though it was a tight game 7.
Yeah. I saw like a meme today that was like from on Instagram that was saying like, back when the season first started, all these sports writers saying who can beat this, trio, the super team in Brooklyn, and then says
I didn't think anybody, honestly.
The SpongeBob, 8 months later, and obviously you have Giannis, the picture of Giannis there in Milwaukee.
The injury gods, that's who beat him.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being honest,
that's true.
Look,
I will say there is some luck there.
Yeah,
there is some luck there, honestly, because I mean, if you really truly had a healthy Harden and a healthy Kyrie alongside Kevin Durant, there's no way, because, and it's nothing against Milwaukee, it's just there's too much star power there.
Mm-hmm.
And what's going to be funny about Phoenix is if they beat the Clippers, man, they're going to be the most hated team in LA as a whole, just because that means they would have taken on and defeated both LA teams, which would have been impressive. I don't know if I have too many details to give you about what this series is going to be. The only thing that's kind of amazing to me is just, and why I think Phoenix is the favorites here, and I'll say it goes 6 games too, because of course, not having Kawhi for not only offense, but of course his defensive abilities is going to hurt LA. And the thing is, Paul George, he's been showing up in the playoffs this year. He has those games and there's moments where he does kind of quiet down. And the important thing is here, he can't shy away. He can't have an off night. He really can't, because if his 34 points from game 1 aren't there going forward, who else is going to be doing the scoring? I don't expect Reggie Jackson to always be second on the team with scoring and getting, 24, 25 points. They're going to have to get their bench going. They're going to have to hope they got Marcus or Markieff Morris. I forgot which one. Marcus Morris.
It's one of them.
It's one of the twins.
One of them.
He's got to get more than 6 points. Nicholas Batum needs to get more than 5 points. So I'm worried about the Clippers offense. I think that's what's going to screw them over here at the end, because the Suns, they may not do many things perfectly well, but they are just a very efficient team.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing Devin Booker become one of those guys that just can score in any way, and he's a fun, dynamic player. I know you've talked about this a couple of times, Cody, even I've seen on Twitter, he's quickly becoming one of your favorite players to watch. It's just guys that could create offense in all these different ways and can be efficient. I mean, the Suns have been touted as one of the most efficient teams in basketball this year, and even in years past, as they've slowly built up this team that they've had. And as soon as they get Chris Paul back, and hopefully they get him back sooner rather than later, I think really that's what could be the final nail in the coffin for LA, is just Chris Paul coming back, because forget about how old the guy is. The dude is still balling, and whatever it is about him, he just makes this team complete. Honestly, he was that finishing touch that this team needed.
And I know Cody said this too. He's, we're all rooting for the Chris Paul deserves a ring. Hopefully, the way the trajectory is going right now, if Devin Booker can continue to ball like he's been balling as the way he did today as of this recording, and the game 1, the triple double.
Not just this recording. I mean, the dude's been putting on a show the entire playoffs.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he to think he, a couple weeks ago he had never even played a playoff game before, and now all of a sudden he's been playing phenomenal, he really his confidence level in the playoffs has grown and grown and grown, and that's it's really, like Cody said, really fun to watch. Devin Booker, really fun to watch this Suns team. DeAndre Ayton, you've got Bridges, Mikal Bridges, also contributing on that roster as well. So, this Suns team, very fun and very intriguing to watch. And same with Atlanta, and I touched on Nate McMillan. You got Trae Young, Bogdanovich has been playing well. I mean, you've got Clint Capella. I mean, you know, who's been the anchor for him and down low, and been it's been really really fun to watch this Atlanta team. And I'm with you, Cody. I think I'm rooting for Atlanta here to move forward and play Milwaukee. And who knows? We'll see. I would say Milwaukee's the favorite, but I mean I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Atlanta,
they are.
yeah.
But I'll say this. I mean, you look at this. I mean, as like we said, they're playing right now. Atlanta and Philly are playing Game 7 right now.
Yeah.
Atlanta is up 5 after 3, 76-71. Trae Young is 2 of 16.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you believe how bad he's
playing?
Trae
Young is
got 11
playing
points.
Horrible.
Yeah.
And yet, I mean, Philly, and this another something that I was going to touch on.
Yeah.
Real quick before we moved on to part of the coaching thing is Ben Simmons. I look, and this is something I've touched on, I think, in previous recordings too.
Yeah.
But Ben Simmons, 4 points on 2 of 4.
Hey, he's got that 11
the man
assists.
Is
though.
getting paid.
Yeah.
I don't care that I don't. He's deferring to his teammates.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris, Seth Curry. No
Yeah.
offense, they're not getting paid $30+ million.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of the he doesn't. I mean, first of all, the guy in the playoffs, or I think it's just in the series, by the way, is shooting 37% from the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's inexcusable. And that's just downright embarrassing.
Yeah.
And
For a guy
no
gets getting paid that much, I definitely
he has
agree,
no
but-
offensive game whatsoever.
Yeah.
They took him off the floor for I think that when they needed a 3. I think it was in either game 1 or 2, I think.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons' performance in this series has been downright embarrassing.
Yeah.
And even
the last game, I think in the second half, only Embiid and Seth Curry were the only two Sixers that scored.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Ben Simmons, where the hell are you?
Yeah.
And guys, I'll tell you what it is and why he's deferring so much and why he's getting the ball out of his hands. And I think because Charles Barkley said it perfectly, I think he's scared that he'll get fouled because they are playing Hack-a Simmons. I mean, Atlanta is, and the strategy for the most part's working. I mean, Ben Simmons is afraid to have the ball in his hands because he's afraid that he's going to get fouled. And he needs to hit his free throws. He needs to develop an offensive game. Because I tell you what, if Philly loses this series, I think either, and it would be Ben Simmons for me.
Yeah.
I think Ben Simmons is gone. I think he's done in Philly. Because can you imagine the flack he'll get, the flack that Doc Rivers will get? They're the number 1 seed. They're supposed to, we're probably one of the favorites to go to the finals.
Yeah.
And no offense to Atlanta, I mean, but I had Atlanta winning 2 games at best. And I'm not putting the fault of this at Joel Embiid at all. Because Joel Embiid has played, I think he had 1 bad game.
Yeah. He's got 20 points right now. I mean,
yeah. So in this game, I mean, it's been more of a defensive type game.
Yeah.
So, but Ben Simmons, you can't be scoring single digits. You can't be taking 5 shots every game. Your performance has been downright pathetic.
Yeah.
And I don't care what his defense and rebounding and assists. We knew he could do that coming in.
Yeah.
We knew that coming in out of college at LSU that those were the things that he excelled at. In my opinion, and I've said this, I've made this public, he has not improved, I don't think, an ounce.
Since he got into the NBA.
Since he got in the league, offensively. Yeah. Actually, I think he's regressed a little bit. You look at some of his stats from this year compared to some previous years, I just think he's regressed. And he's a liability basically in late game situations.
Yeah.
So his performance has been downright pathetic. And if they lose, I can only imagine what Philly is gonna what Philly's gonna say.
Yeah, the Philly fans, man, they'll
Philly is not a. When you lose, it's not.
It's not
a nice
it's not a
sports
fun
town to
sight.
be in.
It's not a fun sight. That's definitely for sure. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think, yeah, I mean, Ben Simmons really really overall, like you said, he's shooting like 35%, I believe. I'm looking at it right now from the free throw line. So not really I mean, I know you
Guys, that's worse than Shaq.
yeah.
No, I'm.
No, yeah.
We laugh at that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's a fact.
Yeah.
That is worse, and we all know how bad Shaq was at his free throws. Ben Simmons is shooting worse than that.
Yeah, no.
I mean, and at least Shaq, could post people up and get to the rim at any time.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons just says, I'm going to let Joel Embiid and Seth. No, with all due respect to Seth Curry.
Yeah.
I mean, he's played really well for the most part in these playoffs, and so has Tobias Harris, I think, for the most part. But Ben Simmons, you can't be a liability.
Yeah.
And
no, he's and I remember even in I think last year's playoff or the year before where he had two playoff games where he had 1 point and 3 points in the whole game.
I'm not paying someone,
and I'm like, what is
this?
Yeah, I tell you what, that's going to be something to keep an eye on, guys, this offseason, not just with this team, but the Mavericks, which is another team with a weird situation, scary situation potentially that we're going to touch on later in this podcast. But I think that's the key going forward and this is where I kind of get worried that we may be entering another era of potentially like big threes, even with this new generation of players coming up, because you're seeing guys like Joel Embiid with the Sixers or even Luka Doncic with the Mavs where they're not finding playoff success, with their one superstar led team. So it kind of makes you wonder, like maybe the Sixers need to move on from Ben Simmons. Maybe you see with Luka, can you bring in somebody else? Do you ship off Porzingis again? I want to hold off on the Mavs opinions because I know we're going to get to that, but there's a couple of teams here. I mean, even there's rumors that apparently Zion Williamson has family or friends that want him to leave, New Orleans. So you could see some big movement, and I would not be surprised if there's at least one or two actually shocking trades that, come up.
Yeah. Guys, Ben Simmons is in the first year of the first year of his Supermax contract that he signed. He's making $35 million, and to average, I have it also pulled up here, 10.7 points per game. In this series. It's just
it's unacceptable. Definitely,
it's inexcusable. I don't care if you're shooting 61%. I don't care if you're averaging 8 assists and 6 rebounds. That's nice, but in a league that is solely dependent now on putting the ball in the basket and it's moved towards an offensive type game, he's 100% a liability. He doesn't even have a post game, really.
No.
And that's I mean, if he got a post game, I'd be like, okay. We could work with that. But he refused. I mean, it's layups. It's layups and open dunks with him.
Yeah. And like you said, if Philly ends up, I mean, they're tied right now at 76, I believe.
Right.
But if Philly ends up losing this game, Cody, it'll be interesting with what you mentioned with potentially Ben Simmons being gone and all these, Will, you mentioned Zion, even, all the different players. You touched on the Mavericks there with the drama with Luka, which we'll get on in further on in this podcast. But you touched on the whole Zion thing with his family wanting him to kind of get out of New Orleans, and that's kind of you look at what the big news coming out of New Orleans this week was they announced they were letting Stan Van Gundy go after just 1 year as the franchise's head coach. So it's kind of like, what do who does New Orleans bring in now? What do you make? What do you make of the overall decision of um, New Orleans saying, "Hey, we're going to part ways with Stan Van Gundy after just one season as the team's head coach?" I know uh, Cody touched on this too with Nate Bjorkgren is and I felt the same way. I know Will, you said the same thing. Is we deserve more than one season to develop in Indiana. Do you feel the same way in New Orleans? And now moving forward, who's the best fit for New Orleans?
Well, first off, let me touch on Van Gundy. Yeah, I think it's a silly decision to fire him this early on. Look, it's like Stan Van Gundy. I know he's not probably the best coach out there, but the guy's been around the block for a while. I mean, I think there's a reason why he's still kind of relevant and why he's on, we've seen him on talk shows before, talking about the NBA as an analyst. He's had coaching jobs. The guy is not a Greg Popovich type of coach by any means. However, I thought what New Orleans had this year was pretty good. I know they missed the playoffs. They didn't play well down the stretch, but look, again, health in the NBA this year has been atrocious, especially with the Pelicans. You had Zion who got hurt at the end of the season, missed the last couple of weeks at the worst possible time as they were still trying to battle for a playoff spot and win enough games. You had Brandon Ingram, who had a very good year, averaged almost 24 points a game. He only played in 61 games, too. Of course, Lonzo Ball, who we know is not the most dynamic scorer or offensive player out there, but he does a little bit of everything, which is nice. And he's a great playmaker and ball distributor. You guys know how I feel about that, how I've been kind of hoping maybe the Bulls look to go and acquire him. So you're talking about some of your best players there. Josh Hart, I know, had some good moments coming off the bench, but then he only played in 47 games this year. There's just you didn't get the full potential from this team this year, and especially when your all-star player gets hurt in crunch time of the season. I just don't know why they pulled the plug so quickly. Now, some of the rumors is that he is the player. He wasn't on the side of the players. They weren't too happy with him because of his stern coaching ability, where it wasn't like Elvin Gentry, where it was kind of laid back. He was more like demanding accountability and whatnot. And look, you need a coach to push you. There's a reason why Greg Popovich has been around for so long, and even why this Spurs team that's not really good anymore and doesn't have a championship contending roster. There's a reason why they compete to at least get into the playoffs every single year, even after the glory days of Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and those guys, because Popovich is a great coach who demands the best out of every player. Same thing with Tom Thibodeau.
Reminds me of too is like when we were watching the Last Dance last year, and you had one of the episodes where you had Michael Jordan. He was pushing some of the guys in practice, and they asked him like, "Hey, why do you push guys so hard?" And he said, "Well, you never won anything, so you wouldn't know about why I'm pushing the guys so hard." He said it was something along the lines of that as a quote. And so it's like, if you have, like you mentioned, if you have somebody who's demanding accountability, you have somebody who like a Pop, who's stern on coaching, strict on coaching versus a laid back, you're gonna be, it's gonna take some time. And I don't think New Orleans gave him enough time to develop, but at the end, you're gonna develop a winning culture.
And that's how you build a winning culture, Yash, is you have to strive for excellence and strive to be competitive and play well and be efficient. And, again, Stan Van Gundy hasn't exactly been that guy that's been great at leading teams to the playoffs and going on big playoff runs. I mean, he had a few moments in the past, but look, if the guy, you at least give him a chance to help set the tone. This is a franchise that they couldn't win when they had Anthony Davis. You have Zion Williamson, who, like I said earlier, there's rumors that people close to him are urging him to consider getting out of New Orleans. If they trade him, forget it. Then you might as well trade Ingram. You might as well trade Lonzo to the Bulls. What is the point if you're not going to have a coach that's there to demand accountability and excellence? And then Zion, I mean, when you start firing coaches back-to-back years, that leads to instability throughout the organization. And maybe that's why Zion and his confidants are worried about this situation. Lonzo Ball might not be back next year. There's just too many uncertainties, and this is a team that I think's worth growing and watching play out and see what they do. Now, to get back to the other question here quickly, Teresa Weatherspoon, someone who they could promote from within. She's a player development coach, and that's awesome. It's another woman who's potentially going to get a nod here, just like Becky Hammon. She also did coach in college at the college level too. So it's not like she isn't a coach. She is probably more than likely ready to go in terms of having the appropriate experience. So I think that'd be great to see either Becky Hammon or even Weatherspoon to get a chance here. Promoting within isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you like the system and like the players you have, and you're just looking for a coach to bring a different tone in, okay, then maybe that's the goal, and the whole reason of promoting within. Again, I don't really understand why you get rid of Stan Van Gundy. Then I don't know what the other, what is she going to do, or there's another guy that they were talking about promoting from within, Fred Vinson. I'm curious to know what do they have that's better than Stan Van Gundy. Of course, we're not going to hear all that stuff until they make a decision. I'm going to say this too. I am not in favor of seeing Jason Kidd get another head coaching job. I think he's overrated. Maybe he could be an assistant coach or work in a front office. I just have never been a fan of seeing him as a coach. If he couldn't figure it out in Milwaukee with the players they had, which, mind you, they still had Giannis, and he was coaching when Giannis really started to take off, and they had Chris Middleton. I know the team's a lot better. The construction of the team right now is a lot better than when he was there, but he had a pretty damn good team when he was there coaching, and he couldn't get the job done. I would say they should go for maybe Terry Stotts, a guy that's proven, who's made it to the playoffs, who's had winning records, has coached star players before. I know what happened with Portland. They always never made it to the promised land. They always came up short. But this is a guy that's been to the playoffs, just left a winning culture. Say what you want about him and not making the finals or anything like that, but that guy's got a winning culture. And if you're trying to build and bring a winning culture into New Orleans and hopefully keep Zion happy and keep him in town, and hopefully some of these other guys, and maybe attract some other players in the future, I think you need to go with the more well-respected, well-known option, and that's a guy like Carlisle or Stotts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't agree with, firing a coach after 1 year. You guys know my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I kind of touched on that with the Pacers. But just when you fire somebody after one season, it makes no sense to me, because you're gonna, like you said, unless you promote within, if you're bringing an outside guy, that outside guy, you know what, he's gonna want to build his assistants with guys probably he knows, or who run the similar systems and whatnot. So not only is your head coach gone, your assistants are probably out the door as well. That happened with the Pacers. I believe only one of their assistants stuck around. And also, when you bring a new coach in, you have to learn a new offense, a new defense, how the coach wants a new playbook. Basically, it's kind of like the NFL, how the coach wants to do things. So these players, after just learning probably a brand new system under Stan Van Gundy, are going to have to learn an entirely new one, most likely, if they bring in an outside guy. So I'm just not a fan of, I get if Stan Van Gundy was there, 4 or 5 years, or maybe even 3 and 4, and it didn't quite work out. But the Pelicans have, I don't know, the only reason I could maybe think he got fired is, what was David Griffin and the ownership, what were their expectations? Were they expected, or did they expect to be the 8th seed, 7th seed? I'm curious to find that out, because granted, the talent is there with Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, JJ Redick, and guys like that. Jackson Hayes is a nice young center that they have there. So what were their expectations? And that, I mean, obviously Stan Van Gundy didn't meet him. So still, I think you at least give him another chance and say, hey, because I really do think the Pelicans are on the verge of making the playoffs. I really do. Zion's going to be Zion. But Brandon Ingram is one of the most underrated players, I think, in the league. JJ Redick, I don't know if he's a free agent or not. I could be wrong. But they have a youth of young talent. Lonzo Ball, like you said, Will, could be on the move. Sounds like that may be the case, but still, they got a wealth of young talent. They're gonna get another nice piece in the draft, hopefully, and start to build a team around Zion. Because Zion, he's not only a paint guy, he can shoot. So build a team around him. And I think the Pelicans could look. I'm not saying they're going to be the 4th or 5th seed in the West, because the West, I mean, we just saw it this year, is probably as strong as it's ever been. So, but this team and Zion needs to experience the playoffs at least. And so if they get that, hopefully they can build off this for the next maybe 4 or 5 years. And who knows if that's a guy like Rick Carlisle, if that's a guy like Terry Stotts. Who knows? Terry Stotts, I mean, if you have expectations just to make the playoffs and don't want to well, obviously when you get there, you want to win, but there's not a ton of pressure to win. I think Terry Stotts is the guy, because Terry Stotts could, I mean, and I've talked about this, his track record is 6 of the 9 times he took a team to the playoffs, that being the Blazers, they've been a first-round exit. So if you're looking for that type of coach, maybe Terry Stotts is your guy. But if they decide to develop within, got no problems there either. I was kind of caught off guard with Stan Van Gundy. I mean, Will, you also brought it up. His track record is, look, it's not the greatest in the world. But of having a veteran coach like that to develop some young guys, I honestly thought was going to be pretty nice. It obviously, David Griffin and Pelicans ownership thought otherwise, and that's why they shipped him out of town. So just another coaching opening, and you know what? They call it the coaching carousel for a reason, so it's going to be fun to follow.
Oh, definitely could be fun to follow, and you know, it's again, a lot of Teresa Witherspoon's, like you said, a name that I've seen on Twitter being thrown around. You know, again, another, like you said, Will, another female, but female that could be into the NBA's head coaching ranks. But the hiring within process is what really gets me, as well as, you know, why would you, like you said, why would you get rid of Van Gundy if you're just going to hire within the organization? But you know, we'll have to see how this Pelicans drama plays out with the head coaching position, with what Zion does. I know, Will, you're hoping that the Lonzo Ball falls in with the Bulls here. So, you know, a lot of moving pieces in New Orleans, and again, we'll have to see how this offseason plays out for the Pelicans themselves. But another team that has a head coaching opening, the Boston Celtics. You look at Brad Stevens. He moved in from the coaching role into the front office. He actually made his first big front office move this past week. He sent Kemba Walker to the Oklahoma City Thunder for bringing Al Horford back into town. So you know, just, you know, again, it's I think, you know, I'll bring Al Horford into town. I mean, it's fine. I mean, he knows the system. He knows, you know, how things work in Boston. But I mean, that's just your first move as an executive to go on to trade Kemba Walker to OKC. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's a heck of a move by if I may say by Brad Stevens, and again, just a guy like he said, he was burnt out with coaching, and now he's in a position to where he's kind of like putting the pieces of the puzzle together here for the Celtics team. But I was looking at some of these the grades that some of these sports writers are given to this trade, and a lot of them are giving it a B here, and not really just average trade here. But I mean, it's just how they're going to use Horford, and that I mean they lost Daniel Tice to your Bulls here, Will. So maybe maybe that's one way to integrate him back into that offensive role. But again, it'll be very interesting. And on the other hand, you have Gilgeous-Alexander out there in OKC. You've got a pretty young OKC team. You've got Dort out there in OKC with who has helped the Thunder itself, and it now with the absence of Chris Paul over this past year, maybe you bring in Kemba Walker and try to fill that void. But I mean, it's just, I mean, for me, that was the shocker to see how Brad Stevens' first move as a executive to pull that off.
Well, the trade was shocking. The move of Kemba Walker was not.
Yeah.
They basically, but I think a week before, or a little over or under a week before the trade happened, a report came out that they said both teams had mutual interest of parting ways. So I wasn't too surprised that he got moved, but this was
the way
weird.
Pieces that he put in to the trade.
Yeah,
that was shocking. Yeah.
I'll say this. The reason they did it was for cap space. Yeah. Kemba Walker has it's a bad contract. He has $74 million left on his contract. I can't remember exactly over how many years. I'm guessing probably like 3 or 4 years.
So yeah.
But what people I don't think are talking about a ton is, okay, yes, you bring Al Horford back, and that's nice. Al Horford has a just as bad contract.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as bad because it's the Celtics at the very end of the day, they still save some money. But Al Horford, who, by the way, I think Boston was the ones who paid him this contract. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of funny how it works out.
Brings it back full circle.
But anyway, Horford is due $54 million over the next 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And
Walker has a 4-year contract, by the way.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, with Al Horford, you already have Robert Williams. You already have Tristan Thompson.
That's true, yeah.
You bring in a young Moses Brown, who, by the way, was also included in this deal, who had the dude's 7'2". So he's probably, if you have size, you're probably going to, Jesus Christ, now they have him and Taco Fall. Have fun stopping that if they put both of them out there at the same time. I just now thought of that.
Yeah.
But so they have Taco Fall too, honestly.
Yeah.
They got a big man problem. But what I mean by that is too many of them. I just don't see a way in which, like I said, Robert Williams.
Especially in this guard-driven league now.
Exactly. Yeah, where you're most likely playing small ball a lot.
Yeah.
Which Celtics are saying, all right, we're gonna go big and most likely and see where it takes them. But the real winner, and it shows you how bad Kemba's contract is. I swear to God, if I could do anything as great as Sam Presti does with acquiring first round picks,
yeah,
I would be just set for life.
Yeah.
This man, they have 3 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. And if they fall the right way, I think 2 of them could be in the top 5. So if the lottery falls the right way. So, and now they just have a crap ton of picks over the next 7 years. I think it's like 30 some odd picks total. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's just with Boston. And also, I've heard rumors that OKC may not even keep Kemba Walker because, like you said, Josh, they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's a nice young guard, and they may look to flip Kemba for more picks. So OKC has fully embraced getting as many picks as possible. So I think that my guess is Kemba doesn't stay in OKC. But if you're Boston, you have a center problem now, like I mentioned. Now, who's your point guard? Look, I'm from Indiana, and I know a lot of people here up in near Lafayette, West Lafayette, where I live close to, have been saying, Carson Edwards, this is finally his chance. Yeah, I mean, Carson Edwards obviously went to Purdue, had a hell of a run in the NCAA tournament. But they have Carson Edwards and Peyton Pritchard. I really don't think either one is set to be a starter right now. I think both of them could come off the bench and do some nice things. So maybe they address that in the draft. Maybe they address that in free agency. But they're not going to address it in the draft, actually, because they gave away their first-round pick for this year. So scratch that. I just don't know. I think it's a little odd. You're going to have to address that in free agency. Marcus Smart, I don't think is the best option to use. He could be, but we'll see where Boston goes.
You also have, by the way, so you mentioned the center problem in Boston. You also have Luke Cornett on that roster as well.
He was a killer with the Bulls before they traded him. Let me tell you.
So
what a killer he was.
They just have. I mean, they got a big man problem, like I said, and they have a point guard problem now. So, with Boston, look, I get the salary dump, which that's a majority of what this was. So you could say both teams won, with OKC getting another first-round pick and potentially more with Kemba if they do decide to flip Kemba, and Boston shed salary. So it just was an odd trade, but I totally get it. It's going to be interesting to see. We usually with trades, we have some follow-ups. So I'm curious to kind of see if this follow-up trade if there is a follow-up trade or whatever. It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, OKC, I think they're just trying to get picks, and Boston, I don't quite know what they're going to do. Boston is such an interesting team with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They have talent, but it's just been underwhelming a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with both teams, really.
Yeah, I'm with you, Cody. I'm definitely interested to see what they do with Kemba. I feel like it could be a Chris Paul thing where he'll play, like maybe not the whole season, but play like half the season and then get traded. They're going to try him out for a little bit, try to see if they could get value out of him or something. But I actually am curious to see too, what else are the Celtics going to do? I mean, this can't be it, right? This can't be the biggest move they make all offseason. They need to get Tatum some help ASAP. And the point guard situation between Kemba and you got Marcus Smart, who I think they should keep Marcus around. He might be decent trade bait, but look, you got to have somebody that could play defense, and Marcus Smart could provide you, 15, 20 points a game, when he's feeling it offensively, but you need a guy that could play good defense, and he's got that grit to do that. The guard position's kind of up for grabs. Yeah. You mentioned, Carson Edwards, maybe his time's coming. I mean, he started in one game this year. He played in 31 games, averaged 4 points a game. Not even the poor guy only got like 8 or 9 minutes a game. So you got to, I don't know. That's going to be asking a lot for him to take on a huge role next year based off of the limited experience and opportunity he's been given. They traded for Evan Fournier. that did not work out too well. That was more of a cluster than anything else, but they got to get Jason Tatum some help. That's why I'm kind of confused as to why they go after the guys that they did. I mean, look, Moses Brown could have a bright future. Horford's near the end of his career, but I guess they're bringing in a veteran guy who, look, he still averaged 14 points and 6 rebounds a game, even for as old as he is, and even though that was not a very good OKC team. So he's a serviceable player. I just don't understand, like, why are you trading a first round pick to get rid of Kemba Walker? Like, I feel like they're getting, if you're trading away the most notable player in the trade, why are you giving up your first round pick? And the number 16 pick is still a pretty decent pick. It's
the
top
reason
20.
I heard about that is because that's how that's how bad apparently Kemba Walker's contract is viewed among a lot of teams.
True. That's a good point. I didn't think about that money wise.
If we're gonna take on this contract, that you're gonna give us a pick in return. I mean, Sam Presti, like I said, works his magic with his picks, and he was able to do it again.
And the amazing thing about him, and they have to give him credit because, yeah, you're thinking that there's many long days and years ahead, moving on from Kevin Durant and losing Kevin Durant, moving on from, Russell Westbrook. It's, usually after you move on from your star players for many years, that means you got a drought coming of bad play. They got a couple of intriguing young players. Kemba, if they do want to try him and Alexander out, that would be kind of interesting. At least let them play like the first half of the season or get to the trade deadline, see what happens, just because maybe they could be a dynamic guard duo. Who knows? I mean, Kemba's still young enough to be on a team and be on a team that's growing and developing. But Sam Presti, yeah, he's a wizard, man, because if you think about it, from 2020 to 2026, they literally have like 3 first round picks per draft every year. That's a handful of picks that they could either use to, and who knows, one day they may break the bank. And I bet this happens. I don't think they're going to spend all 16 points or picks. I think eventually they're going to try to acquire a disgruntled superstar or a couple of key players at one of the trade deadlines in the future. I mean, look, we know it's not as easy to draft players. Like, just because you got 16 first round picks in the next like 7 years doesn't mean they're going to be all hits. You may only, who knows, you may only hit on like 1 or 2. I mean, the drafts are that difficult to find LeBron James, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid-esque players, you name it, the cream of the crop of the league today. So, again, if they're able to maximize on the opportunity to bring in a disgruntled superstar or something down the road too, they have many options of what they could do with these picks. And also, like you guys said, if they go ahead and ship Kemba down the road, and in my opinion, wait till the trade deadline, because if there's a team that's got an injured point guard or is looking for another guy that could average 18 to 20 points a game, you can ask for a couple more first round picks for Kemba probably at the trade deadline if things go according to plan with his value, even though he's got the money and his contract's kind of tough. So honestly, I think OKC is the winner here because there's more. They got the better player. They got a first round pick. I don't know what Boston's doing, but again, this can't be the biggest move they do this offseason because they got to get Jason Tatum some serious help.
No, I definitely agree. I think Jason Tatum really needs some help. I mean, they, like Cody, you had mentioned, Will, you'd also mentioned the point guard situation is kind of up in the air in Boston as well. We've got Romeo Langford in there as well. And like I said, even in a guard centric league, you have that many big men. You don't know how and how you're going to integrate Al Horford, especially with Thompson. Now, I looked up at the roster. I realized, hey, they have Luke Cornett too, like I mentioned. So the amount of big men that they have, how they're going to integrate Al Horford is going to be a big question mark. And like you said, well, maybe this may well not be the only trade, only big splash that Boston makes this offseason. But again, just like with the Pelicans and the drama there, we'll have to keep an eye on what the Celtics do here. And keep in mind, they don't even have a head coach. Like, they haven't even hired they haven't had a hired a head coach yet, so they still have to go through that process and that hiring process overall. So we'll have to see how that pans out over here. But before we could take a little break here, I want to give you an update on the Hawks Sixers game that's going on currently as we're recording here. Hawks are up 98-94. Cody, correct me if I'm wrong. I know
Trae Young is going to the foul line.
You're watching the game live there, but Ben Simmons has only had one point since we last talked about him early on in this segment. He had 4 points when we were talking about it, and now he has 5. So
yeah, there is 34.9 seconds left. Trae Young. Yeah, I'm guessing is probably going to make this second free throw, and they're going to go up 6. It's looking like it. Oh no, we missed it. Okay, announcer's jinx. 30 seconds left.
No, so like I said, Nate McMillan's going to make me eat my words today.
I mean, I'm at this point, like I said, I'm just rooting for him. Definitely. Early on, after they won that first one, it was like, really? Now you do it? Yeah. And now it's just, you know what? I'm rooting for him. I think he deserves it at this point, and it's. I can't remember who's Atlanta's going back to the line.
Yeah.
Gallinari's
having himself a game today. That's for sure.
Keep in mind, guys, this is all Gallinari's having himself a game. Kevin Huerter is coming alive. And by the way, Trae Young is still granted, he has 19 and 10, but he's 5 of 23. Their superstar is 5 of 23, and Atlanta is looking like they're going to escape with a win.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy to be keeping up with this game again. Both Eastern Conference game 7s lived up. People got their money's worth who were there, and definitely lived up to this one's living up to the hype. The Bucks Nets game was phenomenal as well, but we've mentioned, this playoffs have been hot so far. It's been a lot, and like we've been talking about, even outside of the playoffs, there's been a plethora of NBA news with this coaching carousel itself. But we'll continue to talk about this coaching. These coaching changes, the drama surrounding outside of the playoffs surrounding the NBA, as well as some of the NBA regular season awards. But before we do that, we want to let you know that you are listening to Beyond the Press Box with Yash Paddy, Zach Heilman, Cody Emerson, and Will Hatzel. Be sure to follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. To listen to more great episodes, subscribe to the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Also, be sure to subscribe on our YouTube page. Just search Beyond the Press Box. You can also listen to us on the Unhinged Sports Network. Just head over to unhingedsn.com to listen to us and other great podcasts that are featured on the network. So we touched on, the NBA playoffs so far. We touched on, the coaching changes here with the Pelicans. We touched on the trade with Brad Stevens making his front office debut and the trade that he had with Kemba Walker there. But now I want to touch on something that happened last week as well, which is the regular NBA regular season awards were given out. Jokic won the MVP award overall, and LaMelo Ball had Rookie of the Year and so on, and Gobert won Defensive Player of the Year. So another depoy to add to his collection there. But what did you make of this? Just wanted to get your overall thoughts on what did you make of the regular season awards that were given out, and kind of how did it stack up? I know we predicted who we thought would be our MVP, and we predicted these awards a little bit a couple weeks ago on the show. And how did the overall awards stack up to the predictions that you had?
Well, I'll start with MVP, and I'll go down in order. I still think Joel Embiid should have won it over Jokic. Health. I mean, you could maybe argue that I think Jokic played in all 72 games, and that's probably why he got it. But we talked about it. There was no real, I don't think, wrong answer here. I would have leaned with Embiid. I just thought he was the more overall dominant player. And speaking of Joel Embiid, the Sixers officially have eliminated, or the Hawks have officially eliminated the Sixers. So we're going to get Milwaukee and Atlanta in the Eastern Conference Finals. Who predicted that, right? But
honestly,
yeah, I mean, it was with the MVP. I mean, congrats to Jokic. That man deserves it. I'll, like I said, I'm not going to complain too much, even though I would still give it to Embiid. But congrats to Jokic. I mean, the dude averaged 26, 11, and 8 with almost a steal and a half while shooting almost 56%. So, I mean, he's the first Nugget to win the award, so that's kind of nice as well. Rookie of the Year is where I have an issue. I'm sorry, LaMelo. Overall, if he played the entire season and didn't get hurt, absolutely hands down, I would give it to LaMelo Ball. But Anthony Edwards came on strong in the second half of the year, and I think he averaged right around 20 a game. Look, I get Anthony Edwards didn't fill up the stat sheet quite as much like LaMelo did. LaMelo averaged right around 16, 6, and 6 with a steal and a half. But I think you have to give it to a guy who played a majority of the season. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself with I would have said I would have given it to Joel, but we're allowed to be hypocrites on this show. So I just think the eye test a little bit. LaMelo is a great player, and I will say I was not high on him at all. If you go back into our archives and listen to our NBA draft recap show, and kind of as we were previewing it also, I was not high on LaMelo. I thought his game would not translate. He proved me wrong. And I think he's going to have a heck of a career in Charlotte. I just would have given it to Anthony Edwards because I think he just kind of proved more a little bit as the season went along. Depoy, can we just give it to somebody else besides Rudy Gobert?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what I was saying. It's just another Depoy to add.
My
to
humble, my humble, completely 100% biased opinion.
Yeah,
I'm giving it to Miles Turner.
Yeah.
But he led the league, and he still led the league in blocks with almost 3.5 per game, and the Pacers defense was absolutely garbage when he was not on the floor. So Miles, you get my defense. You're my defensive player of the year. But Rudy Gobert, I mean, he's right up there. So I have no arguments really. Ben Simmons, defensive player of the year. You got cooked by Trae Young. So not in this game, but in the entire series. So
yeah.
And then Draymond Green, you can obviously give it to him. I think Rudy Gobert and Draymond, you could interchange those guys whatsoever. I mean, defensive rebounds, Rudy Gobert was, and he did another really thing that was pretty impressed about Rudy Gobert. He only committed 2.3 fouls per game, which as a center, when everyone's going to the basket and you're kind of the last line of defense, to block as many shots as he did and to not foul as often as he did was pretty darn impressive. So can't complain there. Six-man Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles interchanged the two. I'm sorry, Derrick Rose. You had a hell of a season. Jordan Clarkson is just too good. I think. Sorry, he averaged 18 and 4 off the bench.
Mhm.
So, I mean, he averaged around 26.7 minutes per game. So that it would have been a nice story if Derrick Rose would have won it. But Jordan Clarkson's the right answer without question. Most improved, there's no debate here. It's Julius Randle by a landslide, although he did underperform in the playoffs. But we're talking about regular season awards here. So that's basically what it is, even though I think postseason should be included in it a little bit. Coach of the year.
Yeah, this is where I kind of was
This
like,
is
okay.
where, yes, I have another issue. And I'll let Will speak to Tom Thibodeau and how look, Tom Thibodeau, he turned that Knicks team around. No, I'm not. It's not that I'm discrediting the work that Tom Thibodeau did. Just Monty Williams led the Phoenix Suns to the number 1 seed. Or no, I'm sorry, the number 2 seed.
2 seed. Yep.
The Jazz were the number 1. But
Mhm.
the number 2, they went from the 8th or 9th, I think the 9th seed last year, I think, to all the way to the 2. Look, Chris Paul played a role in that. I'm not going to lie, because Chris Paul changes teams wherever he is. But Monty Williams deserved this award. And Tom Thibodeau won. The East was weak as hell. So that's kind of where I'm going with that also. I mean, the Knicks, yeah, congrats. You were I think, 4 or 5. I can't remember exactly what seed they were there. I know they were one of those two, but number 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
But 41 and 31, 10 games over 500 in the West, that barely gets you in the playoffs. So, I mean, I think Monty Williams really deserved that one. So yeah, those are my overall. The 2 major ones that I have an issue with. MVP, I'll let that one slide. Rookie of the year and coach of the year were the 2 ones that I would change. I'm curious to see what Will has to say.
Yeah, what the hell? Where's the support for my former Bulls guys? No, I'm actually with you with most of it. I think it's right that they were finalists, those guys. But yeah, I don't think they were exactly should have been the winners. But yeah, looking at MVP, I was on the Joel Embiid hype train the whole season. I think it's a damn shame he got injured, because I think there's a very good chance he might even surpass Jokic. The only thing is Jokic is, I knew he had great stats, averaging a double-double and whatnot, but the guy did shoot 56.6% from the field and actually shot the 3 ball pretty well for being a big man. So I got to give him credit with that. And also congratulations to him, because he became the lowest drafted player in NBA history and the first Nuggets player to ever win the award. So it's well-deserved. I'm disappointed for Embiid because, like I said, I've been on his hype train this year, but I'm happy for Jokic because, I'm always rooting for and seeing that the guys that don't get these honors or up-and-coming players do get these honors.
No.
I would have been happy, honestly, with Jokic or Embiid or even Steph Curry. I mean, they got the 3 finalists right, so I'm not going to complain or be upset about that. Looking at Rookie of the Year, I'm not really surprised it's LaMelo. I would have went Anthony Edwards just because my biggest thing is LaMelo missed some time, and I feel like that's what kind of screwed Embiid from getting the MVP award. Is he missed time, he was injured. And I think you could also say that without Embiid, it did mess with the Sixers a little bit. However, LaMelo being out hurt the Hornets, I think, even more. So I guess maybe what helped LaMelo still get this award is just seeing his value was displayed every night, even when he was out, because you saw how the team just couldn't still find that rhythm and couldn't still be as efficient as they were. I mean, Edwards, I thought, made a pretty strong run and was very consistent and one of the best I mean, he's a better scorer in my opinion than LaMelo. So he would have been mine. But again, I think the three finalists, Ball, Edwards, Halliburton, I'm fine with that. I would have went with Edwards though. Defensive player of the year. I'm kind of with you, Cody, and on the statements you made about the contradicting ourselves and whatnot, and that we're allowed to do it. It's our damn podcast. But because first off, I'm glad Ben Simmons didn't win. Draymond Green. I know Draymond's been one of the best defensive players since he got into the league, but I just feel like other players still play better defense than him. He's consistent on the defensive end every night, but I think there's other guys that really take it to the next level. And, Gobert has won this award before, but you got to admit, he did reach a new career high with blocks per game this year. He matched his career best in defensive rebounds per game. He's also gotten better in terms of, and not that this helps you win an award, but I think it's worth kind of giving credit that he also cut down his personal fouls to his lowest rate since going all the way back to the 2014-2015 season. So it's his third award. I know I complain. I get tired of seeing LeBron win MVP and some of these other guys. I hate when people win the award like numerous times, of course, unless it's a player or coach on my team, that I'm biased as hell. But
4 straight years in a row, by the way, Gobert has won Defensive Player of the Year.
It's tough to find somebody better.
4 straight years. 2018,
Really?
2019. Should have won it in 2020 because he shut down the whole league. But,
I thought he was only. I was wondering. I thought he was only a 3-time.
I'm sorry. I had to throw that in.
No,
wait.
You snuck that joke in there.
Yeah,
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice one. I'll give you credit.
Sorry, Will. Sorry
No.
for.
No,
you were
it's
talking
all
about
good.
Gobert. You were talking about Draymond Green. How different players should win it, but.
You caught me off guard.
Yeah, at first I'm like, wait, like how could I forget the pandemic and Rudy Gobert playing such a vital role in the NBA shutting down? That was a good one. I give you props for that one. But no, I roll my eyes because he wins again. But to me, it's hard to find a guy that plays at the top level that he does. I think he even outshines, like I said, a guy like Draymond Green. 6-man, Jordan Clarkson. I'm cool with that. I thought he was probably one of the most consistent players out of these guys. Derrick Rose, I feel like 6-man of the year wasn't the right award for him. I feel like it should be more of like most improved player, but he also was the most improved player. Like could have been eligible for that a couple of years ago when he kind of had his return party, coming out again party, when he was with the Timberwolves, and when he was on fire there offensively for a while. So I almost feel like we need a different award category for Rose. But Joe, I always forget how to say, is it Joe English or Joe Ingles?
Ingles.
Okay. So with him, I think honestly, I thought Joe was a little inconsistent at times. Like there were games where he did kind of disappear. And like I said, Jordan Clarkson, you felt his presence in almost every single game this past season. So I will give that to him. And most improved player, totally fine with Julius Randle. I didn't think Jeremy Grant really did that much better this year. And Michael Porter Jr., I felt like he's still kind of young in terms of being a guy that's still developing before we just say he's, in the most improved. Like, I feel like it's just, I look at a guy like Julius Randle, who's been around for a while, and he really took a jump. Michael Porter Jr., I think he's still young enough to where we're just seeing him continue to grow. I get you could still make that argument that he could be in this race, and I'm cool with him being a top 3 finalist, but I think Julius Randle makes sense. And lastly, guys, I'm not going to argue with you about the Tom Thibodeau thing. I'm happy for Tom, again, as a Bulls fan, and I thought he worked some magic with the Knicks. However, and that's why I almost wish these awards would come out after the playoffs and kind of count towards the playoffs. I know it's not fair to any of these guys that don't make the playoffs or don't go far in the playoffs either. But I mean, Monty Williams, not only did they have one of the best records in the NBA this year, they're in the conference finals. They beat LeBron. They beat LA. They might beat the second LA team. I mean, they have been great. And again, I keep saying this in every podcast. I just don't see, when I look at this roster, Look, Chris Paul's a great player. I get it. Devin Booker, a great player. He keeps getting better.
Yep.
But I just never have seen this team, at least in my opinion. I didn't expect to see them have this it factor the way they've had it. So I have to give Monty Williams that kind of credit. So yeah, I this one I wholeheartedly disagree with. Again, the three finalists are cool, but I would have gave this to Monty Williams without a doubt.
No, I definitely agree, and that's the kind of one area I think that's the one area where I kind of have that disagreement here with the way that the winner was chosen for Coach of the Year is Monty Williams. To take Phoenix from that eighth or ninth seed, excuse me, from the year prior to now, the number 2 seed in the West. Especially in the Western Conference, that's stacked and really full of talent when it comes compared to the East. It's a hell of a job by Monty Williams. He deserved for me, with like you guys, I think he deserved the award there. But a lot of my awards are very similar to what you guys said. I had Jokic winning the MVP. And again, he was averaging a double like you said, Will. Phenomenal. Just stuff in the stat sheet there for Nikola with Rookie of the Year. Cody and Will, I'm also with you guys. I think Edwards, who played more, who was phenomenal, had some phenomenal highlight reel dunks and highlight real plays with the Timberwolves. So I think that Edwards should have won that award instead of Ball with the amount of time that Ball missed. I made the Rudy Gobert pun earlier, so y'all know how I Rudy Gobert and Draymond Green. Definitely, like you said, Cody, both you can switch them out, swap them out from year to year. Clarkson, he played lights out, even against the Clippers. He played lights out off the bench. So in the playoffs, so definitely deserved that. Most improved player, Julius Randle. No question there for the regular season. Julius Randle played phenomenal. Shot 41% from the three, 81% from the free throw line. I mean, it's a phenomenal regular season to help bring the Knicks into that fourth seed. Now, we don't talk about his playoff blunders because he again didn't perform at the highest level when it came to the playoffs. But yeah, mine kind of are very, very similar to what you guys said, except the Coach of the Year and that Rookie of the Year talk, where I disagree with what the writers say here. But it's interesting. We talk about the NBA season awards and how some of these guys didn't get to play in the playoffs, and we've been touching on the off season and the drama that's been unfolding in the playoffs, outside of the playoffs, excuse me, in the NBA. And Will, you had touched on it earlier with the Dallas Mavericks, and saying Kristaps Porzingis isn't too happy in Dallas. Luka Doncic is also rumored to be unhappy. Your 2 stars here. Rick Carlisle and the president of basketball operations, Donnie Nelson, have left Dallas. So what do you see as being kind of the next move for the Mavs? That's another, like we've mentioned, all these head coaching openings coming up. Another big head coaching opening in Dallas. And so what's next? What do you think's next in Dallas, and kind of, with Doncic and Porzingis' future kind of in doubt, where do you see them headed? Whether coming back to the Mavericks, or do you see them getting out of town.
Honestly, I think they're gonna do whatever they can to keep Luca around. And I think Luca is still at the point where it's like if they could give him the super max deal, I think he'll be okay. There's theories going on right now that he had friction with somebody in the front office. Some people say it wasn't president of operations Donnie Nelson, who has left after being there for 24 years. There's rumors of some other front office figure. Maybe there's also the rumors of that there were theories that there was friction between him and Rick Carlisle. Could have been, not agreeing on play styles and systems and things like that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't. On paper, it looks intriguing that maybe Luca and Kristaps Porzingis could be like a dynamic duo. I haven't really seen that, and it's interesting because you have.
Well, Kristaps is also like the injuries with Kristaps has also played a big role.
He hasn't even played.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't even play. But supposedly, and this has come out on some podcasts too, that Porzingis does not enjoy playing for Dallas, and that apparently he doesn't get along with Luka. So, I mean, if I'm a Mavs fan, I'm scared about this whole situation. But I'd be talking to Mark Cuban and saying, look, Luka is the guy you build around. He's your new Nowitzki. If Kristaps doesn't like it here, he didn't live up to the expectations in New York. Quite honestly, he got a second chance in Dallas when they were going through a transition and moving on from Nowitzki, and even before Luka became the phenom that he is, hasn't lived up to the expectations. If you're not playing, you're not even out there playing and trying. I don't know. I don't know what you want. Now, of course, I'm not there in the locker room and with them every day. I don't know what's going on with this drama, and hey, good luck trying to get a coach. The draft combine starts this week. The draft is in a month, and you also have the Celtics, the Pacers, the Trailblazers, the Pelicans, the Wizards, and the Magic all trying to find coaches. So there's going to be a competition just trying to fill these head coaching vacancies amongst the league. So
yeah,
I guess really the point is here, I think Luka does come back because I think the Mavs have no choice but to literally find a million ways to make Luka happy. He's a generational talent.
Yeah.
You got to find a coach that fits his play style. And just like what's going on in Boston right now, not only do you need a head coach, you need to find another guy that could stand next to your star player, as in Tatum in Boston, and help him out. So, I mean, the Mavericks were in a spot, and I felt like a week or two ago where it was like, okay, they just need to keep building the roster. Arguably one of your best players is even, I'll consider Kristaps still one of their best players. He's not happy. You just lost a well-respected and successful coach and also president of basketball operations. There's a lot more uncertainty now than I ever would have thought that the Mavs would have going into this offseason. So it's a little bit concerning, but I still say Luka stays. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, again, like you said, the Mavs really, I mean, he's a generational talent. I know Mark Cuban spoke about, how he was able to replace, a talented European star in Dirk Nowitzki with another talented European star in Luka Doncic. And I know how much he raves on Luka and his skill. And, again, it'll be very, very interesting to see. Very, very interesting will be to see what Luka does and what Kristaps does. I know Kristaps has, I read that report too, where he said he's not too happy playing with Luka. He's not too happy playing in Dallas. So, I mean, again, we'll have to see how much I said the Cowboys for a second. The Mavericks.
He's gonna go play football.
I know.
Be a hell of a wide receiver.
I know.
7'2" wide receiver.
Yeah, well, they did draft. The Cowboys did draft, just to go a little off track here. The Cowboys did draft Rico Gathers, Baylor power forward who played for Baylor. So, who knows? Kristaps they may have interest that may be the interesting there, but no. But getting back to the Mavericks, I mean, again, like you said, well, a lot of dysfunction coming in Dallas, and we'll see how Luka responds. We'll see how Kristaps responds. But yeah, it's. I mean, as I know Cody has said he's hoping for a Rick Carlisle reunion in Indiana. So,
I mean,
but
yeah, that's. I mean, good Lord, guys, it's like it was kind of like, I don't say it was quite like opening. It was Christmas Day.
Yeah.
For Pacers Twitter, but as soon as that news broke, and I'm in agreement with most of people on Pacers Twitter when they say bring Rick Carlisle home. I don't think and for those who don't know, Rick Carlisle was the coach in Indiana for 3 seasons before. I don't know if they did. I'm pretty sure they didn't renew his contract. I think it wasn't a firing or anything like that. It was kind of a mutual parting. And then obviously Rick Carlisle went on to Dallas and had the immense amount of success that he did. Rick Carlisle was the head coach during the Malice at the Palace. If you're an NBA fan, you know what that is, obviously. And if you're a Pacers fan, you remember the miserable time watching the team those next, I'd say 3-4 years. It took a long time for the Pacers to get out of the Malice at the Palace. And Rick Carlisle was basically at the center of that, had a ton of his players suspended. It was just an ugly situation.
Mm-hmm.
And keep in mind, his first year, we went 61-21 under Rick Carlisle in his first season with the Pacers. And that was in the latter stages of Reggie Miller's career. But it was, I want Rick Carlisle back. I don't want Terry Stotts, like I've been saying on this show. Rick Carlisle immediately jumps to number 1 on my list. Mm-hmm. It would be a dream. And you know what? Vegas kind of likes, I think he has the second most odds, Terry Stotts being number 1. But I would like Rick Carlisle to come home. The Pacers need, I think, a defensive veteran type coach who's had success, and Rick Carlisle fits that bill to a T. So if the Pacers can make it happen, I'd love to make it happen. That's my way of inserting the Pacers on this show. And now I'll talk about the overall situation. Yeah, you keep Luka Doncic any way you can. If Luka says, give me $80 million a year, I would give Luka $80 million a year. You write Luka Doncic a blank check and say, fill in the number. That you don't lose Luka Doncic. Luka is going to win multiple MVPs. Talk about if we go back just a second, maybe. I mean, I think they, in terms of the 3 guys for MVP, they got it right. You could throw Luka's name in that hat. I mean, he's averaging 28, 9, and 8, I think, or whatever Luka averaged this year, some stupid number. And he's only like 21, 22 years old. So you do whatever you can to put the talent around him. Look, Tim Hardaway Jr., I think, as a unrestricted free agent, or so he may get, he's on the move. Kristaps, look, he's a good player when healthy. I kind of feel like we say this with a ton of big men. That if healthy thing always comes back to bite him. Guys, he missed the entire 18-19 season with an ACL injury. Only played 48 games in 17-18 before he got hurt with that ACL. In 16-17 he missed 17 games. His rookie year, he missed 10. 19-20, that had been last season of the 7, no. I can't remember how many games they played last year before it got shut down and whatnot. But of the 72 games this year, he missed 19. he cannot stay healthy. It's bad. It's just bad of the amount. I love to keep track of people who talk about the amount of possible games that he could play and then the amount of games he actually has played. Um, he when on the court, he's a 20-7, 20-8 type guy, I think, who can easily stretch the floor. I think the Mavericks, however, just wanted him to basically be a stand on the 3-point line type guy, and let Luka go to work and see what. I mean, it's kind of just let Luka run the show, and Kristaps, if you get the ball, you get the ball. So I can understand his frustration. However, I will side with the Mavericks on this one. I didn't realize how much I forgot he signed a max contract. Guys, he signed a 5-year, $158 million contract. He's making around $31 million per year. He's
Very
going to be
similar
making,
to Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but I'd take, and this is all right. I mean, Kristaps can actually score and rebound, unlike Ben Simmons. But defending I won't get into that, but
yeah.
I mean, he made $29 million this year. He's scheduled to make $31 million next year, $33 million in 2022, and then in the final year of his contract, make $36 million. That contract's going to be really, really hard to move. And people are going to be like, okay, what? I mean, is he going to stay healthy? I don't think the Mavs get a ton for him. I think they're forced to, trade him maybe for a second-round pick and not some talented players, not that great of talent. Maybe a little less talent than Kristaps. Because good Lord, this contract. I completely forgot about it until I looked it up.
And you know who has taken on another terrible contract we touched on earlier is Kemba Walker and Sam Presti in OKC. So
yeah, it's just, I mean, these bad contracts has kind of been a theme of the show a little bit. With Kemba, Ben Simmons, and now Kristaps. If Kristaps can stay healthy, I'd be okay with this contract. But the bottom line is, like I kind of interjected a little bit, he has ankles and legs made of glass, and they are easily snappable. And you know what? I mean, it's a nature of the beast, I think. When you're that size, you're gonna have lower leg injuries because all that pressure being put on your legs and whatnot. So, but it's a mess in Dallas right now, and I just really don't know how they fix it. I trust that Mark Cuban, he's a genius. He does a crap ton of other things also with Shark Tank, and he's going to spend his money wisely, and he is not afraid to spend his money and go into the luxury tax. So I think Dallas will get it right. I do. But you're going to have to do some reworking with Dallas has been on the cusp of bringing people in. They had a while back they had an agreement with DeAndre Jordan, and that didn't work out. They've dipped their toes in the free agent market quite a lot, and I think it's only a matter of time before they hit a home run with one. So because I would want to play with Luka Doncic, that's for sure. Because as great of a scorer he is, he's also probably maybe even a better passer. So he will find you. It's just don't expect to be like he's going to be the alpha. Obviously, don't expect to come in there and steal the show. So I don't know what Dallas does, but in the end, if I had to put my money on it, I'd say they get it right because I trust Luka Doncic, Mark Cuban, and the Mavs. They're right in the thick of things in the Western Conference with Luka right there. So I think they can right this difficult ship that they're going through right now.
No, I definitely agree. Will, you had something to say there? Or?
No, I mean I'm with Cody. It's one of
Yeah.
those things where, if anything, I think they made this situation worse with lose your head coach,
No.
you lose your president of operations. It's just it's a really unstable situation right now,
Yeah,
and
it
Yeah.
is, and I mean it's going to be
yeah, I mean,
interesting
if
to
you
kind
trade
of see
Porzingis
how.
for a second round pick,
Yeah.
that's I mean that's horrible. I mean, you lose
Yeah.
so much value, but they may not have a choice.
Yeah.
I just don't see a team.
Willing to take on that
I just
contract.
don't see a team willing to run the risk
Yeah.
with Kristaps and his injury. I mean, maybe a veteran team that, like, oh Lord, I'd hate to say this because you're gonna have Steph, Clay, and Draymond there, but Golden State, if they take a chance, I mean, they don't
Mhm.
need a team. I think for Kristaps, an ideal team would be a team that really doesn't need him to be like. If they, I think they could be fine if he misses a few games or misses some time,
Mhm.
but don't for a team that's like, yep, we want to pair you and you're going to be the beta to this guy's alpha or whatever. I wouldn't trust it. An
Yeah.
ideal spot for Kristaps would be a team where they're it's set in stone and they're ready to compete and they could right the ship if he does get hurt.
Yeah. They're not reliant on
Yes,
Kristaps
exactly.
solely. So that's no, I agree. I agree with that. That's kind of the way to go. But again, like you said, it'll be interesting to see which teams are willing to take on his injury risk, given his injury history there in New York and in Dallas throughout his time in Dallas overall. But yeah, a lot of drama and a lot of it's an exciting time in the NBA. Again, a lot of the playoffs are heating up. I mean, when we, like I mentioned earlier, you just saw as of this recording today, Devin Booker record his first triple double in his young career so far, and I mean the way
Conference
that the
finals are set.
yeah, conference finals are set. I mean, the Suns are
Milwaukee and
already up
Atlanta.
1-0 Yeah. Then you have Milwaukee and Atlanta in the East, and that's another intriguing matchup there with Trae Young and Giannis on those both respective teams. So again, the NBA is heating up. Both in season with the playoffs and in the off season with all this drama that's happening. And I know it's a very fun time for people like us who are very passionate NBA fans to go through and look at that and analyze that itself. But before we close for the night, I do want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Will, your Chicago Bears, and
Will's turn to be pissed.
the the situation with the way Matt Nagy is handling the Dalton Fields situation you have going on in Chicago. I know Fields has said he embraces what Nagy's decision, and he's just going to work and study film. He was asked. I saw his press conference earlier this week where he was asked what is he going to do in the summer, and he's like, "I'm going to study film. I'm just going to be here. I'm going to work, and I'm just going to wait my turn, and just wait for Coach Nagy to say when he wants me to be in." And he said until then he's just going to work and study and work and study. So just was curious to see your reaction to Matt Nagy and the way he's handled this whole situation.
Look, I don't think it's like the wrong way in terms of their decision to roll in the training camp with Dalton as the starter. I think it's a little bit too premature, and I understand why Nagy's talking now. Like, people are complaining, why is Matt Nagy making these comments? Okay, well, he's got media obligations, and every time he steps in front of the podium, he's going to be asked about the quarterback situation. It's the number one storyline, one of the top storylines in the league, not even just within the franchise itself. So it's it's something that's going to be brought up all the time, and I understand why he's got to talk about it, and I kind of get the whole classic route of taking the approach of, okay, we're going to let the guy with the experience, the veteran guy get, first team reps. And, the plan is to go into the season with him. However, look, Justin Fields is not Mitch Trubisky. Justin Fields has played in over 30 games. Probably it's over 20 games of like legit like games as the starter. I'm talking more specifically his Ohio State days, because it's that 1 year in Georgia he didn't play that much, but it's more than one season, which is what Mitchell Trubisky essentially played in 13 games. You don't need to coddle Justin Fields. Now, of course, there's things he has to learn, and he's admitted that he's made a few mistakes. He's thrown a couple of interceptions in practice, particularly in the red zone, where when you're throwing into the end zone and you don't have a lot of space. And he's been trying to throw it in the tight spots in between defenders. He's admitting the mistakes. He's holding himself accountable. Love to see it. And also, he's another thing that he's got to learn, and he's admitted it. Nagy's talked about it. They're teaching him how to call plays, because they did a lot of no huddle at Ohio State. So he's learning how to run an NFL offense. So it's going to take time to learn and develop and to get used to those things.
I also like how he's, like I said, he's not, he's not fighting with Nagy. He's not, going at a war with words. He's actually embracing the decision by Nagy. So there's no animosity. There's no, there's nothing there. He's actually embracing.
Number 2 on the depth chart.
Yeah.
It's not like they're saying it would be kind of disrespectful to put him underneath both Dalton and Foles. I mean, the Bears have not that I want Foles to play, not that I want to see Dalton play, because I don't totally trust him either, but 2 veteran quarterbacks and a prolific rookie, that's a pretty solid quarterback room. And apparently they're all getting along just fine. Foles has been supportive and has called him on the phone and congratulated him when he got drafted. I guess Dalton and his wife took Justin out for dinner. They're developing the relationships, the work relationships. There's of course going to be friendships on the side too, because these guys are going to be with each other every day here soon. They're going to be practicing, playing film sessions, stuff like that. So that's good. What I think Nagy needs to do, though, is say, this is how we're going in the camp, but let's see how camp goes. Let's see how preseason goes. And this whole, his mistake was saying that there's no way Justin is starting week 1, unless the only way he's starting is if Dalton gets hurt. Why are we already why are we already restraining the possibilities of Justin Fields? Because what if he does outperform Dalton? Also, this whole, and Bears fans are saying this too. Real quick, let me just before you respond, because I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this too. People want to coddle him. Well, I don't think it's smart to put him out there week 1 against the Rams and Aaron Donald. It's the NFL. He's going to have to be ready at a moment's notice if Dalton ever walks off the field with an injury. Every NFL defense you play, even the worst ones, have really good players that are bigger and stronger and faster than half the guys from college. So that's lame. I think that's a lame excuse.
And like I said, I just looking at, Justin Fields is on, they have him, throwing during OTAs on Twitter, and just to seeing the way he's progressing it's been phenomenal to see him and his growth in Chicago. And I was kind of saying, like, I know we were talking earlier, is, how about these rookies? I know, and even in New England, Cody, Mac Jones right now, from what I've been hearing, is looking a lot, through his OTAs and everything, he's looking a lot better than Cam Newton at the present moment. So who knows what's going to happen in New England too.
Yeah, I mean, it's the rumors, and the video out there is the video out there. I mean, you can go on social media and find the video of Cam I'll defend Cam to a slight. I don't know if he's fully recovered from the injury it was a very minor injury to his throw. I think his throwing hand. I don't know if he's fully recovered from that yet, but yeah, I mean, Mac Jones, from what I've been seeing, from what I've been keeping up with, the ESPN or Mike Reese, thought I butchered his name for just a second, but Patriots reporter for ESPN. He's been saying nothing but positive things about Mac Jones, and if Mac Jones ends up, outplaying Cam or in practice and in training camp, look, I get Bill Belichick's been going the Matt Nagy route a little bit and saying that Cam's still our quarterback, which of course he's got to say that. Cam is a veteran. He knows the offense. It's a little different situation than you got in Chicago with a rookie and a guy and a veteran who's still trying to learn the system. Both are still trying to learn the offense and the schemes and whatnot in Chicago. Cam knows the playbook, knows the offense, and but if Mac is able to come in there and outperform him, and Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels thinks he's ready, the good old saying around Patriots world is "in Bill we trust." So, whoever's QB1 will definitely earn it.
Yeah, no, Chicago and New England, although it's a little bit different situations, very similar in their the way that some in OTAs and what I've been seeing with the rookies kind of outclassing a little bit some of the veterans on the field there. So they'll have to see who gets in first, whether it's Mac Jones or Justin Fields, who gets in first, the first taste of playing time. Again, I'll have to keep up with that and see how that turns out. But as of now, I know, Will, I definitely agree with you there that, if you're Matt Nagy, you're kind of restricting your labeling. Why label something so early on? Why not wait until after training camp? Because, to say right now that, Andy Dalton is the starter, is like you said, a little premature.
Rank the depth chart, but leave it, because then it's just more pressure on Nagy if it goes south and it goes the other way, which it's not a bad problem to have if Justin Fields plays well. But again, you're talking about a Bears team that they're not in a rebuild. They're still, they're kind of in their contention years.
Yeah, no, and I know you and Zach have said before, it's Nagy's job is, we from what I've seen from last year with the way you and Zach have described the McCaskies, I don't know what'll happen with Nagy in the future, but Nagy's job is like you mentioned before, it's on the line this season, where he has to get things done, and
we don't have that problem.
Yeah, definitely.
Enjoy that. We might have to make some bets though. Which quarterback plays first, Mac Jones or Justin Fields? And it actually might be Mac Jones.
Yeah. It's also very interesting. Mac Jones, Mac Jones is still, and apparently it's a Patriots tradition. I don't know if it's I wouldn't call it hazing by any means, but they have him wearing number 50. It's just very weird watching a quarterback wear number 50. And it's not, just another thing is we're going to have to get, I don't think that's going to be his official number by any means. I still haven't yet to see what his official number will be. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be 50, but it's just be something weird to follow. Not just with quarterbacks, but with people being able to switch up numbers this year, it's going to be like.
Now, will you get a Mac Jones jersey, Cody? Would you consider getting a Mac Jones jersey?
Do not do it yet. There's a guy that got a Trubisky jersey. Do not do it.
If I got a Mac Jones jersey, that means I would give up on Cam Newton. I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I still have my Cam jersey hanging.
Yeah.
I need to start breaking out some of the Patriots gear. I will still rock my AFL Julian Edelman red jersey. I will still wear that around. I will still wear that proudly.
No. So. I know. I had mentioned. It's funny you mentioned that too, Will. The don't do it. You brought the Trubisky, because I know I had put on Twitter earlier that I had asked if you and Zach would now go ahead and buy the Fields jersey. And Zach,
not even
like
doing that
said,
yet. I know somebody that has one. But
wait, he's like, dude, I don't buy for the hype. I buy for results. So hey, again, like I said, I right
Maybe
now,
I should have followed that advice. I immediately bought the Cam Newton jersey. Yeah,
hey,
it's not bad.
yeah, it's not bad. But
I can make my fantasy dream come true. Justin Fields being on the Patriots. If Cam Newton doesn't turn out, I can just put, instead of Newton, I can put Fields over the top of it with just a 1, because that will be his number.
Yeah.
So
true. There you go.
There you go. There you go.
If things don't pan out with Cam, I can always make that happen.
Yeah. But again, like I said, well, Will and Cody, you have to put some, like you said, you have to put some bets on who plays first, on who gets on the field, before
This is
the
bet
other.
I want to win, not for the bet, but for the benefit of my football team.
I was gonna say, it's like if our rookies are getting into the game, maybe that means our teams are not doing so hot, which is that's the main thing we want.
Yeah,
exactly.
Is our teams to succeed.
And that's
Josh, you don't have to worry about that. Just hand the ball to Derrick.
I know.
Or toss it up to Julio.
AJ Brown. I know. I'm so glad I'm not in the situation. I mean, you got the King in the backfield, King Henry, of course.
I'm sure Tannehill is going to feel a little bit of pressure though, because if he doesn't perform well this year, or if Tennessee doesn't perform well this year, then I think there could be pressure that eventually comes on Tannehill. But of course, right now I'm sure he's excited and he can't wait to get out there,
living life.
Yeah, and Julio.
I'd love to come to practice every day and see Derrick Henry, Julio, and AJ Brown.
Yeah,
that'd make my life so much easier.
So, but yeah, like you said, I mean, Tannehill. I mean, he'll definitely, if he can't. But I mean, you've got the bruising running game with Derrick Henry. I mean, you just throw it up to Julio, he'll catch it. I mean, same thing with AJ Brown. He's good with the long ball. I mean, so I think Tannehill's in a good place. But we'll again, like I said, we'll have to see how the Fields Dalton Fields situation plays out as the season continues. I know we'll be keeping a watch on that, and again, we'll have to see how the same thing in New England. We'll have to see the progression of Mac Jones versus Cam Newton and going into training camp, and see how that all pans out as we get closer and closer into training camp and closer into the preseason, which we'll actually have this year. We'll actually have a preseason, so we'll get to see some of these rookies out in this preseason as well, which we didn't have last year because of the pandemic. But that's all the time we have for this edition of Beyond the Press Box. I want to thank you for listening to Beyond the Press Box. To stay up to date on content, to even join our debate, like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Beyond the Press Box and look for our cool red logo. To listen to more great episodes, please be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. We also have a YouTube page where you can find video versions of our podcast as well, so make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page as well. We're also a proud member of the Unhinged Sports Network, so head on over to unhingedsn.com to listen to our podcast and other great podcasts as well. We want to thank you for listening and have a great rest of your week.